Carlos, welcome back to the podcast. So excited to have you here again.
Tony, I'm a little sad that I'm on the podcast without being across the like 2 feet from you in real life.
That's right, because the last time you and I got together was a live podcast here.
That's right.
In Centerville. It was so good to see you and hang out, and man, I'm excited about what God is doing in your life.
Thank you, man. It's a really exciting season.
I want to start by talking about this Kickstarter. There's really interesting thought for me is that as a leader, you have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for people all over the world. And yet there was kind of this trepidation about doing a Kickstarter for your own movie. There was a lot of raw emotion in your email and just your YouTube video. Can you talk us through that process and what kind of finally got you over the hump?
Yeah, man. So let's just start with Kickstarter in general. So Kickstarter is a crowdfunding platform, right, where you raise money for projects that you care about. So whether you're, making a toy or a comic book or whatever it is, and you don't have the funds to do it, you try to crowdfund it, and you give people incentives based on the level that they enter into funding your dream, whatever it is. So, I decided to make this documentary with really just kind of extra footage that I had from this experiment that I did where I didn't look at a screen for 7 weeks. And so I had all this footage, and I knew my friend said it could be a great documentary. So we kind of started going down the road of making it. And I knew that I was going to need somebody to back it, right? I could go find like an investor somewhere, but then that's what I was going to do, just to let you know. Like I was going to go just find somebody that was like, hey, here's a check. And I knew a few people I could call to kind of make that happen, but I was really challenged to invite my platform, my audience, the people that follow me on Instagram and my email list and all the places, to come alongside me and be the funders, be the backers. And I just was like, that's a horrible idea. That, like, why would I ever want to do that? Like, no, like I only exist to help other people. I do not exist to get help myself. Like that was like, I was saying these things and my wife's like, do you need to go to therapy? Like, is there something, do you hear what you're saying? And I did, but I didn't care. Like I knew that no, I don't want to do this. Like I just want to help other people. I've raised over $1.5 million for strangers. And I needed $50,000 for myself for this movie. And I didn't want to do it. And so I put it off week after week after week. And my management team was like, when are you going to do it? Like we're kind of running up against the deadline. And I was like, so finally the day came, and I just, I tried to make the video asking for money probably 12 times. I just kept crying. I just kept going, this is just not me. I don't know. And Tony, I'd also like I've protected my audience so strongly. I've never asked them for anything that for me. I've only asked them for other people. I've been very transparent with the funds that come in. I just want there to be a level of trust that, is unlike any other. And so I don't know, there's just something in me that was like, if you ask for something for you, then you're going to break it. You're going to break the trust. You're going to break the machine. You're going to break the, everything that you've built. And I was wrong, to put quite simply. Kickstarter gives you a minimum funding window of 30 days. It has to be 30 days. Normally there's 6 months to 9 months is how long a Kickstarter campaign is. And so for a project of $50,000, Kickstarter says it normally takes about 3 months to fund it. That's what their average is. And so that's what I was asking for. And I got on there fully honestly expecting it to take at least 30 days. And 9 hours later, the entire movie was funded. 9 hours later. The CEO of Kickstarter caught wind of it, DMs me, shares my video. He's freaking out. He's like, this may be the most money that anyone has ever raised in that short amount of time on Kickstarter. Like it just was, the Insta Familia did it again. Like it just was like proof in the pudding that my not only is my audience and my tribe givers, but the DMs I got, Tony, thanking me for letting them pour into my thing. That, Carlos, you don't know like how long we've been waiting to do something like this for you. You don't know how long, like, you've done so much for other people. Like, thank you for asking us to help you. You never ask us to help you. Thank you for asking, and so it was healing. It was like therapy. It was awesome. We're up to, I think, $70,000 now. And so it's kind of gone above and beyond. So we're going to enter it in some film festivals and, just do some fun things. And, so it was scary. Again, I've never made a movie. I'm 50 years old. I'm good at writing books and selling books and speaking. And, I'm going to try to do this movie thing. And the other thing with Kickstarter is if you don't raise all the money, you don't get a cent. So it's not like GoFundMe where you can raise half of it and you still get it. No, if you don't raise it, you will fail in front of everybody. And so not only did I not fail, but, we're still 26 days left. And, and who knows, maybe I'll make a whole other documentary.
What I appreciate about it is how it parallels what you did in this book, because it's all about stepping out in faith and trying these new things and these new environments. Which one was scarier, giving up your screens or doing the documentary?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I definitely think, it's fun. That's actually a great question. I was scared. It was scared both times. I think the giving up the screens, that probably was scarier, only because I had never ever done that. Like I'd never, I've asked for things before hesitantly. So like I knew that there was a chance I could fund this and that, with a little bit of this or that I could raise the money for the Kickstarter. But the phone thing, I did not know if I could survive. Like not like I was going to die, but I didn't know if I don't look at a screen for 7 weeks. Like, is everyone going to unfollow me on Instagram? What's going to happen here? So, I think it was scarier to get rid of the phone.
Well, in full disclosure, from what I counted, I think you tried to quit this exercise at least 3 times in the course of it. From the book.
Definitely. Like I was like, okay, I'm done. 2 days in, I'm done. I can write a book about 48 hours without my phone.
Well, one of the parts that was really intriguing to me was this idea about this facade of control. And you write about in the book and I have a son who just left for college. So, I'm feeling this real hard right now.
Yeah.
And your daughter calls you. She's got a problem. And you're like, okay, I can be home and I could be I could be there to take care of it. And your daughter, of course, says, no, you've got to finish what you started.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the facade of control and how that ended up being such an eye-opening experience for you.
Well, these phones give us the illusion. It's a facade. It's an illusion of that we're somehow in control of our lives or more in control. And what we're actually not more in control. We've just added worry in compounding ways to our life. Like literally, like think about it. Like my mom, and I think I go back into this in the book for a second. Like she looks at Life 360 and like how I can see how fast my kids are going, where my kids are, when they leave the church, when they get it. And she's just like, oh my gosh, I would have been so stressed out if I would have had that much access to where we just told you, hey, be home by 9. And we never worried, even if it was 9:30. Around 10, we'd start to worry, but normally by 10, our worries were squelched by you'd show up late, or we'd call Sandy Sullivan and you're still at the house watching a movie and you just forgot to call us. She's just like, Life 360 gives you access to worry 24/7, whereas we didn't have the option. We just had to trust. And man, if just that little conversation wasn't shape-shifting for a lot of even how I re-entered back into having a phone again. Life 360 is off. Like I took it off my phone. Now it's old-fashioned. It's like 1985. Like I'm just like, hey kids, call me when you get home. Oh, here's the kicker. Again, control. It's not just us. It's our kids now have this need for control of like knowing they can contact us whenever they want. So this is a great example. My son just got grounded for a week, took his phone away for a week. Okay. Sorry, Lo, but it happened. And so he was going to go play pickleball. And he's like, hey Dad, can I borrow the truck? I was like, yeah. So then he's like, do do you want me to go without my phone? I was like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. He's like, and he wasn't asking me. He was asking honestly for him. He's like, you can turn all my apps off. You can turn everything off. Just make sure I can like call you. I was like, no, you'll be okay. And he's like, but what if something happens? And I was like, what's my phone number? He goes, 615-6 blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, you got it. So if something happens, then you call me. And even him, he had to leave, and he's like, Dad, that was so weird to drive away without a way to contact you. It's an illusion of control. Now, I'm not saying that, there's not great things about some of these things, right? Life 360, like if again, I believe it's more of a worry vehicle than helps us, because
absolutely.
like a friend of mine told me a story where his wife put the phone on the roof of the car, has Life 360, took off with their phone on the roof, made it like half a mile away. The phone fell off. Well, Life 360 has a like crash reporter where it will send a text notification to all your people that follow you if you've been in an accident. He got this notification that his wife was in an accident. His wife's not answering the phone. Why? Well, because the phone was on the side of the road because it fell off. But her wife's just on her way somewhere else. He couldn't get a hold of her. He drives, finding the exact pin. He's like, my heart's pounding out of my chest. She's not there. And I can't figure out. And finally, I don't know why it alerted me of that, but she calls me and she's like, hey, I heard you were looking for me. Yeah, are you okay? Yeah. Wait. Have you seen my phone? And then realized that the reason why I got a crash notification was because the phone fell off. Again, unnecessary worry, right? We think we're in control, but we just aren't, Tony. We're just not in control of anything. And so, man, for me, that was it was so freeing for me to get rid of that control.
I think in the book, there's something that your mom says that was really profound. She goes, when we needed to find you, we just went out and looked for you, and we never not found you.
Right, exactly.
Right? Like, I was like, dang.
Yeah, man.
The book is kind of broken up into two different parts. There's the monk school and Amish school, and they're vastly different, right? Like
yes.
But the stories were amazing, and so
could you even feel that while reading it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first part's all about inner work, and the second part was all about the outer expression of that inner work. I think that's the way. That was my interpretation. I don't just have my own little book club here, but
yeah. No, it was. I mean, they were completely different. It was like I say it in the book. It was like moving from a cave, living in a cave for 2 weeks, to downtown Manhattan. Like the Amish were like New York City. It was crazy.
In the book, you talk about kind of this existential crisis that you have, and you have this. This place at the eye of the needle, and I'm wondering if you could kind of tell that story as the storm rolls in, and kind of give us a look at this, because it felt like it was powerful for me as the reader. I'm sure it was even more powerful for you.
Yeah, I had, so the Eye of the Needle is this kind of monument at the top of this beautiful hill that's surrounded by it's a cemetery where all of the monks get buried, and it's this hike up behind the monastery, behind the abbey, and I would hike up there every day, and I was probably 4 or 5 days into my experience at the monastery when my faith and just everything kind of started, like everything just kind of became real squishy, like what used to feel real solid didn't feel that way anymore. And let me tell you why. It's not like, I don't even want to say like I deconstructed and reconstructed, but there was just this, when you don't have sermons to listen to, podcasts to listen to, books, to listen to, YouTube videos to watch, like that are quote unquote like helping you with your faith, when suddenly you're just left with your brain and your heart and the scriptures, suddenly things get a little weird. And I just started thinking about, God, and started asking these hard questions like, well, God, like, if you're so in control, why is this happening in the world? And why are you allowing this to happen? And so, I had quite the nervous breakdown where I go and I find Father Francis, and I'm like, he was a former abbot there, and I like sit in his office, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't believe in God anymore. He's just kind of chuckling at me because he's seen this from many city slickers that have come into the desert with the monks. And he's like, hey, listen, you just need to behold. And I just remember going like, what? He's like, you need to behold God. And I was like, behold? He's like, yes, like when the word behold is in the scripture, like that is like you're about to see something gigantic. You're about to see something massive. So he's like, hey, there's a storm rolling in. I want you to walk up to the cemetery. So I walk up there and I hike up there and I just sit there and I watch this storm start to roll in. And Tony, it was just brilliant on his part, because suddenly like all of my doubts about God were kind of squashed by this magnificent storm that was just rolling in. And I started looking around like, wait a second, like how could there not be a God? It was almost the opposite reaction of like, this was the thing that was leading me back to like, oh, there is something way bigger than me out here. There's no way this was an accident. There's no way that this, that all of this beauty, and I was beholding God. And so, yeah, it was really actually solidifying of my faith. After a little bit of unraveling, all it took was me watching the storm roll in to begin to see the magnificent nature of who God is. And yeah, so that was a pretty eye-opening moment for me, that God had become really small. And suddenly God was getting way bigger. And as much as, all of our great things, you make them, I make them, these podcasts, all of these things can help us understand maybe a little bit of who God is. I need people to understand that, like, we're still literally only understanding a little bit. Like, God became gigantic for me. And suddenly, like, I had more questions about God than when I got there, but it didn't make me less of a believer. And so, like, my faith got stronger and God got bigger. And I feel like I even understood him even less, while understanding maybe some of his attributes even more. So, again, if this sounds like, okay, what's he like? So is he closer? Is he farther? Like, you're going to need to read the book, because I think it's something that every believer needs to get back to, which is allowing God to help you realize who he is, as opposed to allowing other voices to let you figure out who he is.
Oh, one of the things that you mentioned in the book is this idea about perspective, about looking for small things versus looking for big things. Now that you're a ways away, how do you behold on a random Monday in August, where it's 1,000 degrees outside and it's this weird heat wave? And I mean, how are you beholding today?
Oh man, 30 minutes ago, before I got on this podcast, I walk across the street and my father lives there. He's got dementia. And I sit down, and the last 3 days, he's just kind of been real anxious and nervous and ticky and not really focused. And I walk in, he looks really calm, and I sit down and he goes, "Hello, son." And I was like, behold, wow. like look at God. Look at how he just cleared my father's mind. And it only lasted like 4 seconds, and then he got a little jittery again, but I was like, whoa, there it was. I just needed to look for it. Like, I saw it, just right there. Behold, my son today, it's his first day back at school, and, just having like a behold moment, again, small moment, but like sitting there watching him start his last year of high school and being like, oh my gosh, like, this is what a great moment to behold again. What a great moment to just notice all of the miracles that had to take place in order for this random moment of my son eating ice cream on the sofa the first morning of his senior, all the way from like us choosing to adopt, the day we chose to adopt, filling out the paperwork, the moment we filled it out so that he could be the one that was exactly designed, created for us, for my family. And then all of that, I could have ended up with anybody, but I got him. Behold, like so many of those behold moments every day, all day.
One of the beautiful parts for me that I thought was interesting, and I was like, I'm going to ask him about this, is Heather coming at the end of each trip, right? So at the end of monk school, and then at the end of Amish school, Heather came for 48 hours, I think it was. Yeah. And talk to me about the prompting of that decision and what that reunification was like. Yeah,
I was, first of all, I was living my wife's dream. It's never was my dream to live with the Amish. Okay, so I need to let everybody know, my wife is the one that, like, she's like, you should live with the Amish. You should live like, so these were like her dreams that I was living out. So I think first of all, like, I just was like, she needs to get some of this goodness too. But second of all, I realized pretty quickly after I got to the monastery, to monk school, because that was the first 2 weeks. I realized pretty quickly that I am rapidly transforming into the man of my wife's dreams. Like I'm literally like, if she could have pried my phone out of my hand before this experiment and tossed it into the deepest ocean, she would have. And now here I am, like literally walking with God 3 miles an hour every day, and she doesn't get to experience it. So also we were just like, you need to get some of this goodness too. Like you need to be able to experience me like this. Now I did move home for 3 weeks and live with my family with no screens, but we also wanted to make sure that Heather got to experience me at the monastery. Because again, the monastery my wife grew up at. So she would not living there, but she would grow up visiting there. She knew all the monks when she was a little girl. Her father was like a high capacity volunteer there. He's buried there. So my wife is actually the one with the connection to the monks in the monastery. And so she was able to come back and talk to Father Francis, who knew her when she was a little girl. And here's something people won't know until they listen to your podcast, because I haven't announced it yet. Father Francis passed away like 3 weeks ago. I got a text from Father Carlos, who's the kind of second in line to the abbot. And he's like, Carlos, I hate to tell you, because I just talked to Francis like the week before. Father Francis had a heart attack and he passed away. And literally, like, I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to, you gasp because you've read the book. Right. So,
yeah.
so like I haven't been able to talk about it because nobody knows who he is until they read the book. Right. And so, but I was able to tell you and you had that response because he was such a wise man. And so I'm just grateful that I had that time with him. And again, he was close with Heather. He was close with Heather's father.
Did he get to see the documentary?
No, he didn't get to see the documentary. He didn't get to read the book. I just spent so much time, like I would send him parts of the book and he would read them and kind of help me with it and stuff like that. So he never got it to the end. Yeah, man. So the whole documentary is dedicated to him. And he was taken too soon. I mean, he was, 74, jolly monk. And so that was devastating, but also I'm grateful that I got to spend that time with him. Anyway, my wife, I felt like she needed to be able to see. She calls me she calls me Amish Carlos whenever I'm like I'll wear my hat and when I start doing chores around the house, and she's like, oh, I miss Amish Carlos. I love Amish Carlos, and so I knew she would. So yeah, man.
Let's talk about that whole adventure, and I appreciated the education on the difference, the tension that I was feeling as you were telling the story about the different levels of technology, and we won't have to go into that here because people should just pick up a copy of the book. But I know you well enough to know that, you're not really an extroverted. Let's try. You like your routines, you like your people, yep. Right? Tell me about that feeling when Leanne was driving you down the driveway and her little VW, and this is. You've never met these people before.
Never.
This is, I had anxiety for you, and I met you. We even talked about this after the book was written. So totally. I was sweating on the airplane.
Yeah. Well, I also had just come from 2 weeks in a monastery where I spent 23 hours of my day alone, like just me. Right. And so, I would talk to the monks, but barely. I would have, every once in a while, we had more conversations the longer I was there, but I was coming from Solo Town, and then I was getting dropped off at this Amish farm where I didn't know the people. I didn't know how they were going to treat me. I know that they said, yes, I could live with them. And I knew that I was going to, all I knew is that they were like, yes, you can live here. And we can kind of show you what it's like to be Amish. And so, I pulled in, my heart was pounding. Honestly, at that point, I was like, I really didn't want to do it. I just was like, I just have lived through already an existential crisis, at this monastery. What's going to happen here with the Amish? And it was pretty quick. Once I saw Willis's smile, and he really didn't say a lot. Again, Willis isn't a man of many words, but he kind of was like, you must be Carlos, and I was like, yep. And I think at first I saw his daughter Krista. But he's like, all right, come with me to the barn. I just kind of started following him. And then he's like, all right, go, if you can go close that gate right there. And then he just put me right to work.
And next thing you know, you were like doing vet stuff with sheep that day, right?
I'm like vaccinating sheep. I'm like, like holding, grabbing a sheep's back legs and like making sure they don't kick me. And I'm like, whoa, I'm all in, dude. I was exhausted from like half a day of farming with Willis. I'm just like, okay, this is not a monastery. This is the opposite. And it was exhausting, but it was also surprisingly refreshing for me. And actually, I was a little surprised at my engagement levels with the family, just in dinners, and like my excitement to be able to spend time with other people. Because here's the thing, I would say, and I don't know if I said this in the book or not, but I've normally said I'm an introvert, and I think what I realized while I was with the Amish is I'm actually probably just exhausted from spending time with people on my phone, to where when it was time to hang out with someone in person, I think I was just, all the extrovertedness was already sucked away from me. And when I didn't have my phone, I was really desiring these face-to-face conversations. I was really desiring these 90-minute meals around the table. I was really desiring all these things. And so, man, I had that was the most extroverted version of me ever. And some of me wonders if that's not the true me. If it wasn't for as much stuff as I'm consuming and all of these conversations that I'm really only half having, because they're not conversations, they're little speeches I give on my phone. If that's not exhausting me to the point where I don't have time for real life relationships. So anyway, I mean, that I don't know if I just made that up in my head, but I was feeling a lot of that.
What do you think would have happened if you would have gone in the reverse order? Like if you would have gone to Amish school first and then monk school?
It's a great question. I've thought about it a whole lot. I don't know. I don't think it would have worked.
I don't think it would have either. I had a lot of opinions about it.
Yeah. I don't think it would have worked. The Amish were so go, and I feel like I needed the terror of silence, of solitude, of boredom, of all the things we're so terrified of, that soon went from being terrified to completely addicted to. And like, I'm like, oh, this is what we need back. This is what I needed to be. And I just don't think that if I would have done it in reverse, again, God's in control of everything. He's the one that set this thing up this way. But if I would have done it backwards, and I almost did it backwards. If I would have done it backwards, I don't think I would have even the book wouldn't have been even remotely the same. I'm sure I would have figured things out. Things would have been awesome. But the way I did it, I think, was super helpful to really deal with the introspective, kind of like you said, solitude, boredom, savoring, all of these things that we don't do, and then move into, the outside of myself things, the relationships, the community, the meals, all those things.
One of the things that struck me about the Amish life that you were living was that it started early and it ended late, and it was very physical. And so just from a creative process, I noticed that the journals really kind of stopped on the Amish side. Like at one point, you even kind of make a joke about your poor journal being abandoned. How did you capture those stories when you had no capacity really? Because everything was just work all the time.
Yeah. No, legitimately, if it wasn't for my little Sony camera that I took, every night I'd set it up on a little tripod and I'd just hit record and I'd look into the lens. And I would just talk for like 30 minutes. Oh my gosh, today I did this. Today I did this. Today I did this. And a lot of those videos are ending up in the documentary. And so, yes. So like I need to remind people that this wasn't like a anti-technology. It's not like I didn't have technology with me. I just didn't have screens with me. And so, yeah, I mean, cameras, like I had a camera. I wasn't trying to go crazy. I even had a little, like I took a speaker and then I bought and they still sell these things, an actual MP3 player. Okay, so yes, so you go on Amazon, you can buy a Bluetooth MP3 player that I had to load with music before my trip. Like I literally had to figure out how to turn these streaming things into MP3. So you do it on Spotify. I think Spotify owns this MP3 player. And then I had a way I could listen to music without a screen. And so, it was that's how I was documenting a lot of my days with the Amish. I would just talk to a camera every single night. I'd turn it on and I'd just talk to it, and I'd record myself on it. And and then those things, and that's really why I initially took my camera, was I just wanted to remember. I wanted to, remember all these things. There was never plans for a documentary. There was never plans for any of that until like a year later. I had all the footage and I was like, I should just give this to somebody. So a lot of those things ended up being in the documentary.
There's a phrase in the book that I wanted you to kind of tell the story behind, and it's "dew on my boots."
Yes.
Will you kind of give us the background on that? For me, this was a fascinating idea about leaning into intuition and understanding. And so could you kind of paint that picture?
Yeah. God gave us intuition for a reason, and we've literally, our phones have destroyed it. Like our phones screens have ruined our intuition. They've ruined our gut checks, our judgment that we feel. I feel like this is maybe the thing to do. Yelp, the worst thing ever, right? Why would I like trust some random stranger that went to a restaurant with my own taste buds? But we do it all the time. Oh, it's only got 3.5 stars. I'm not going there, right? Intuition. So, here I am at the sheep farm, and where the first week was basically we were trying to cut the hay. Like it was all about cutting the hay, bro. Like I've never really been on a farm, so I'm getting educated on grass every day. Like we'd walk out to the grass and we'd feel the grass. We'd look at the weather, and he's like, okay, the grass has got to dry one more day, then we can cut it, and then we're going to roll it, and then we're going to bale it. But if it's too wet, we can't do it. So I'm like, okay, so every day it was like, we have to wait. And I'm like, when are we going to cut this freaking grass? Like, is this what farming is? We're just waiting for the grass so that we can, And then so finally we get to a point where it looks like we're going to get to cut the grass. I'm like, sweet. But then I wake up that morning and there's just thunder over, lightning, and I'm like, oh no, there's a storm. That means we're going to have to wait like 3 more days to cut the grass. So I go meet Willis for coffee, and I was like, well, it looks like we're going to have to wait, because again, we don't want to ruin the hay by baling wet grass. I'm telling the farmer now how to do his job, right? Like this is how confident I am. And Willis is like, well, take a look down at your boots. I was like, huh? He's like, look at your boots. So I looked down, and he's like, what do you see? And I was like, I don't know, they're wet. He's like, yep, if there's dew on your boots, it's not going to rain. And Tony, if you could have heard the laugh that came out of it, I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Look, I can literally see the storm. Like I can see the rain falling. He goes, we're cutting hay today. I was like, Willis, you just told me that you'll ruin all of this grass in this field if you cut that. He's like, there's dew on your boots. It's not going to rain. So homeboy proceeds to start cutting the hay. Now I leave with Kathy, his wife, to Diane's house. And so we're out, right? And we're out for pretty much the whole morning. We're on our way back. It's dumping rain on us. We make it a mile from the farm. It's like dumping rain all day. Like it's not like a little pop-up shower. It's just dumping. So we're on our way back. It's dumping rain. We're about a mile from the farm. It's dumping rain. And I literally looked at Kathy with pity, almost like, I'm so sorry that your sheep farming husband made this mistake. I cannot believe he would do that, bro. We get to the 4-way stop in Mount Hope, Ohio. We drive a couple hundred yards farther, and legitimately, the rain just stopped. Like it's like we went through a wall, like almost like a, I don't know, like if you've ever seen studios in Hollywood, like making it rain, and then sure. It just stopped. And I was like, and she looked at me. She's like, we're not home yet. And we drive the extra half mile from home, whatever. We pull in. I just told them the story the other day, reminded them of it. We pull in, man. It is dry. Not a drop of rain has hit that farm. And Willis is literally standing there with his arms crossed, kind of on his belly, just chuckling. And I get out and I walk up to him. He's like, there was dew on my boots. And, that's all he said. And I just was like, holy cow. But, to trust that. To trust the intuition that God had given him, to trust our gut. We just don't do it anymore. Like we have legitimately replaced the Holy Spirit with Google. We've replaced the God speaking to us with just the opinions of man. And I'm just telling you, that was really monumental for me to kind of get back in touch with hearing the voice of God, trusting my intuition, trusting my gut. And it was also a fun story. So.
is amazing. One of the things that struck me is, I've obviously followed you for a while now, and the timing of this as it pertains to the timing of what's going on with your dad.
Yeah.
It was because the whole book is really about noticing things and about being present. And how do you feel like God has prepared you for this season with your dad because of that season in the book?
Yeah, that's great. Great question. Thanks for asking. My dad is, on this slow decline with his dementia. He is, I was able to, between when I finished this experiment and the book coming out, literally halfway between, I was able to buy a house across the street from me and move my mom and dad into it. I've not lived near my parents in the same state as my parents for over 25 years. And suddenly now they're, 100 feet away from me. And man, I just, when I go to my parents' house, I leave my phone at my house half the time. I forget my phone over there half the time. I'm just not near as connected to it as I used to be. Yeah. And just to be, to practice presence. There's a whole chapter on presence, on savoring this time with my dad. Like just looking at his face, looking at the way that his stubble grows on his beard. I never really he never had a beard. He just had a mustache forever. So now every once in a while, because it's hard for my mom to shave him. So like he's got this kind of little scruffy thing going on, and I'm just kind of savoring it, looking at it. I'll just feel his chin, and all these little things that I get to do, all of this savoring that I get to do with my mom and dad, knowing that, he doesn't have a lot of time. So I'm literally gonna savor it. I'm gonna sit in it. I'm gonna practice presence. Anytime I start getting used to something, if I get used to my parents living across the street, how can I disturb and disrupt that so that I can see it fresh again? Like I talk about in the book, if you go into a bakery and you smell the smells of the bakery and you're like, smells amazing, and you order your bread and you order your latte and you sit there, and then you're having conversations, and then someone else walks in and they're like, it smells amazing, and then you're like, oh, wait a second, I don't smell it anymore. Because we get used to it. We get used to the scent and the beauty that's around us. So like, what do you have to do in order to smell it again? You have to leave the bakery, and you have to walk back in, and then, you smell it again. So how am I doing that constantly with my dad, right? How am I doing that? So man, yes, all of these lessons, right? All of these lessons in the book, I get to immediately reapply to my life. And, I feel like this book probably has the most applicable principles of any book that I've written. Like I've got a book called Kill the Spider that I think is maybe one of my most helpful things I've ever written for people. But that's just kind of one application. Like it's like one thing, like what's the agreement with the lie? Identify it and then kill it. Okay. Whereas this, I feel like every chapter I'm really giving handlebars to people on how to fall back in love with living on the other side of your screen. And, I tell people all the time, just pick 2. My book maybe has 20. I can't remember how many it is. Just pick 2 and watch you start living your life again instead of your life living you.
Yeah, I was, just the idea of having more dinners at the table with tech free and some of that stuff is just,
yeah.
I'm in this season where I'm really savoring my kids getting older.
Yeah.
And now that one's out the door and you're further along on this journey than I am, but like, it's part of my heart is no longer in Ohio. It's in Annapolis, Maryland.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm just like, I just wish I could talk to him more. And so that savoring really struck me, and just, I got 2 middle school kids now, and I'm like trying to capture all that.
Oh, bro.
Where would you tell people to start? Like if they're like, okay, I'm ready to reconnect in a new way. What's like your number one go-to first recommendation?
That's a great question. My number one go-to, I think, is going to be, I think, honestly, we have to fall back in love with some of the things that we've forgotten about. So not, again, what I don't want people to do, I'll tell you what I don't want them to do, is I don't want them to like start putting screen time on their phone, or like, find some app that restricts the amount of time that you're looking at Instagram. Like literally all of those guardrails, they may be helpful for a minute. This goes back to Kill the Spider, but you're just cleaning the cobwebs. You're just, it's really useless. Once you fall back in love with what's on the other side of the screen, then you're going to pick up your phone less. I'm now actually down to 3.5 hours a day. I was on my phone, and again, I don't have one bit of screen time. I don't have any like, Carlos, don't look at your phone from this time to this. None of it. I'm just doing all these things that I learned to do with the Amish and the monks. And so I just pick my phone up less. Like I don't need it anymore. Because why? Well, because I'm allowing myself to wonder. Here's one thing. If you're in a conversation with a friend, and it'll happen now that you hear me say this, it'll happen today or tomorrow. You're gonna be in conversation with your wife, your kids, a friend, and someone's gonna say, I wonder what, and when they say that, immediately they're gonna reach for a phone. And what I want you to do is to go, stop. Nope, because you actually aren't wondering. Asking the question isn't wondering. Wondering happens after you ask the question. Wow. Wondering happens when you actually don't find the answer. So what I'm like the wonder killer now. I'm not the opposite. I'm exactly the opposite. I'm literally like, wondering is what we're gonna do. Like, so if we're at a party and someone's like, I wonder what, I don't let anyone look it up. And I'm like, no, we're just gonna, and then we just talk about it. And then the questions that come up because we're wondering about things. I mean, Tony, I would walk out from, I'd be in the high desert and it was scorching hot. And immediately my first thought is how hot it is. Well, you know how silly that is? Like, if you really think about it, like, nobody ever knew how hot it was until, like, ever. And so, like, I'd reach for my phone, like, I wonder how hot it is. Oh, well, you know what? I don't know because I don't have a phone. It's just hot, And so, I think to myself, we've stopped wondering about things. And so that's one thing I would say is, like, lessen the amount of information lessen the amount of answers that you try to find. Let your answers be, I don't know, those 3 words. See if you can start saying, I don't know, a lot more. And of course, there's practical things that I tell people. Obviously, like, I charge my phone now in the kitchen, and I bought an alarm clock. And so my alarm clock next to my bed is the only thing that wakes me up. And then when I pick it up, I'm not laying in my bed for the next 15, 20 minutes, scrolling through notifications that are waiting for all of us when we wake up. Yeah. So now, like, my mornings are so much more purposeful, like so much more meaningful to be able to savor and be present, And so, I mean, other things I've done, like I subscribe to a newspaper instead of reading the news on my phone. Like, I get it every single morning. I walk out in my front yard and there's a newspaper that just happens to be sitting. I don't know who throws it in my front yard, but they throw it there every morning. And I've never seen them do it, but there it is. And I read the news. It was just great. I love the news. But then the next time I see the news will be the next morning. If something else happens on planet Earth that I need to know about, I promise you someone will call me and tell me. But like, these are all these things that I've started to do to practice presence, to be present, to savor. And these things are super, super helpful. And I also, would tell somebody, so I'm giving you, like, at first I said I didn't know what one would be. Now I'm giving you 5. But another thing I would say is, I do believe that everybody, and this is going to be hard for some people, first just start for 6 straight hours. So I want 6 straight hours where you have no screen. And when I say no screen, I want you to walk out to your car and put your phone in the car and then walk back inside the house. Or if you're going on a date, I want you to leave the phone for 6 hours at home. I promise you, 99.9999999% of the time, nothing's going to happen you need your phone for. Yeah. And the 1% that does happen, guess what? It's still going to happen whether or not you have your phone. So get rid of it. Put 6 hours at a time. Just start with 6 hours. And my whole goal for anyone that reads my book is to move from like 6 hours of no screen time to 24 hours. 24 hours. If you can get yourself to 24 hours without a screen, you will be probably the healthiest of all of your friends and family. And if you can do that once a week. So I do it once a week still. I still do 24 hours, literally 24 hours of no screen, which honestly, I mean, I'm sleeping half that time. So, sure. it really is only 12 hours. And I think it'll help all of us.
I want to ask one more kind of off the rails question here.
Yeah.
And it's about the health journey that God has you on. And I remember you said on your Instagram a while ago that Heather just wanted you to make some healthier life choices.
Yes.
What have you learned about yourself in that process?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I turned 50 last year. I'm about to turn 51. And my wife, for her birthday, I said, what do you want for your birthday? She's like, all I want is for you to eat healthy for 6 months. And I was like, that's the most expensive gift you've ever asked me for. And so I was like, okay, so I'm doing my best. But what I also realized is, my wife she's cooking me healthy meals every single meal that she's, again, because she wants me to do this, I'm getting incredible meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If she's not around, I know now what to cook because she's, helped me realize those things. But I'm also realizing that, like this body that we've got, dude, you've been following me long enough. I've had health journeys, sure. And I've been on kicks, fit by first. I'm like, like doing CrossFit and then not. And then I went through a pretty long season where I really haven't been working out the last few years. But now I've I got addicted to pickleball and I'm eating healthy, and legitimately in the last 2 months, I've probably lost like 15 pounds. Wow, and because I'm playing so much pickleball and I am eating healthy, and it's just been the coolest thing. So, I just keep thinking to myself also with my dad's dementia, like what can I do? How can I be proactive to lessen the chance that that's going to happen to me? And so like I'm doing all the things like Dr. Amen. Once the documentary comes out, you'll see his entire video that he filmed with me. And the week that the book comes out, he's going to put out his content that he filmed with me. And so, he's given me a lot of things to change in my eating that are going to affect, the risk of dementia in my life. And, what I've learned through all the research on food that we eat is dementia is primarily caused by what we put in our mouth. And, it's not something that you have to get. Like you literally can shift the trajectory of it in your life. So, man, I'm on a lot of different streams of health right now. Sure. But I'm grateful that my wife asked me to do that, because what it's done is it's really, again, I get addicted to things. And so this is now something I'm addicted to. It's like my health journey, my brain journey, all those things. So it's been pretty cool.
Is this going to be a future book?
Maybe. Who knows? It is funny because like I've got this 2-book deal. And I turned it in, and I think I got an email from my publisher last week. It's like, hey, my agent, like, so what are you thinking for? And I was like, what am I thinking? Like, I haven't even started thinking about the next book, but they want me to start thinking about that. So yeah, like I've got a lot of ideas for the next book. But also, why not help people holistically with all the aspects of their lives at one? Yeah. Could be something cool.
Okay, one more question for you, but before I ask it, I know all the people are going to figure out how they can watch the documentary and pick up a copy of the book. Where's the best place to learn all things Carlos?
Yeah, so go to carloswhitaker.com, and you can pick up the book. I don't know when this is coming out, but there's like freebies on there as well that we're going to keep up after the book comes out, that you can get like a journaling guide and a couple things. The documentary is going to, if you want to get the documentary the day it comes out, if you go to my Kickstarter and pledge on there, you can get that plus a whole bunch of other goodies to fund it. But then once the documentary comes out, October 25th is when it comes out for the public, then, it'll be behind a paywall somewhere and people will be able to find it. But if you follow me on Instagram at LosWhit, you'll be able to, I'll make sure to tell everybody where they can go to watch it.
Okay, so for my last question, I normally ask an advice question, but it felt like today it was appropriate to ask a wonder question.
Oh,
right.
I love
so
it.
I want to invite you to wonder, what are we celebrating about what God has done in your life 1 year from today?
Oh, come on. I am thinking 1 year from today, we are celebrating the fact that I am the healthiest version of me that I've ever been. In 1 year, so I'll be back on your podcast in a year, make sure that you book it. In 1 year, I want to stand up, lift my shirt up, show you my belly, and show you my abs. And then I want to be able to memorize 47 numerals and spit them back to you because my brain's firing on all cylinders. Like I just want to be as healthy as I possibly can. That's my goal for next year. I want to celebrate that with you, Tony.
Amen. Praise God.
Let's go.
Carlos, it's always so good to talk to you. I'm so appreciative of your willingness to hang out with us, and just thank you for the work that you do for all of us.
Dude, thank you for being a friend and being just a great encourager. You're one of the best. So I always love being on here with you.